of the NFC East. We'll see how they wind up doing in the NFC West. 4-0 in that division, and they took care of the Bears last night. If you're just joining us, here's a quick look at what happened on Monday Night Football last night. SoFi Stadium, first time ever hosting the Monday night game. Aaron Donald and the Rams defense was just dominant. This in the second quarter, Bears down a touchdown. It's Nick Foles back to throw, but nothing going. Donald is there. Greg Gaines is there, feeling the pressure from Donald all night long. You would also feel it from the former Bear, Leonard Floyd. What a good night he had against his former team. There's one of his 2 sacks on the night. In all, the Rams defense had 4 sacks on Nick Foles. Third quarter now, Bears down 17-3 in the red zone, trying to get something going. Graziano already told you they didn't score an offensive touchdown. That's one of 2 picks that Nick Foles would throw on the night. Rams go on to win it 24-10. Both teams with the same record, but boy, do they feel different. Meanwhile, to the Dallas Cowboys, who have the opposite record. They're 2-5. They've been outscored by 67 points, second worst in the sport. Stephen Jones yesterday addressed the state of the team under first-year head coach Mike McCarthy.
I know we've got the right head guy for the job, and, it's a work in progress. I know our fans are frustrated. We certainly understand the criticisms come our way. Jerry and I are big believers in sticking with the staff, and we just got to give them their opportunity to work with these guys and continue to implement what they're trying to get accomplished.
Guess it all feels a little bit different when you consider where those teams are right now in as far as the division is concerned, because no one is running away and hiding in that division. But do I have Swagoo and Jeff with me here? Because I really wanted to ask Marcus about this. Thank you. Marcus, this is what we didn't get to off the top of the program today, but one of the things that created the most conversation here was the moment where Andy Dalton is sliding and he gets hit in the head, and no one on the Cowboys seems to react at all. As a former Cowboy yourself, Marcus, I wondered what your reaction was to that moment.
Gee, it was embarrassing. I mean, listen, you know a lot of things about the game of football, and you also know that the protection of the guys around you. We always talk about brotherhood, playing for each other, playing for the guy next to you. And at first it was just, I was furious about no one going up to Bostic or doing anything. But then I thought about it. These guys ain't built that way. And look, there's a point where you have to allow people to show you who they are. And this is a offensive line full of guys that didn't expect to be playing, that doesn't understand the gravity of that moment. And I had to kind of sit back and say, if Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, Lyle Collins were out there, that offensive line, they all went to see if Andy Dalton was okay. And you could tell that was green and being young. And then Amari Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, everybody talking about that. Receiver trying to get no smoke with that linebacker. That's just the bottom line, G. I know people want a better answer, but this team ain't built that way. And they showed you that during that moment in that game. And a lot of other moments this season, to be quite frank.
I would ask you then, if that was Dak Prescott lying there, and he was the one who got hit in the head like that instead of Andy Dalton, do you think it would have been different?
Probably, because Dak is looked at completely different. And maybe you do look at the reality is you look at Dak Prescott totally different than you look at Andy Dalton or for anybody else on that team for all intents and purposes. The second thing is this, G. When we start having a conversation about what should you do, you should go up to Bostic and it should be an all-out brawl. That's what should happen.
Yep.
That's what most football players that I've ever played with would have done. That's what guys that I played with in Dallas would have done. But trying to come up with a reason why these guys didn't do it, I don't have one outside of the fact that they are not built that way. This team is operating in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. You can be bad at football, but you also can be bad in how you approach football. And this team has been bad in how they approach football, and this is another example of how bad they've been.
Let me ask the offensive lineman. Jeff Saturday, what was your reaction?
Oh, it disgusted me, man. And listen, I get they're young guys and they haven't played with anybody, man. From Pee Wee on, if you're an offensive lineman, your number one job is to protect that dude behind you. You love to run the ball. You love to get in there with your running back and make big plays and do all the kind. Everybody wants to go. It's a physical battle. But at the end of the day, everybody knows the guy behind you. I don't care if it's Dak Prescott, Andy Dalton, you keep naming them. when you and listen, there ain't any fans in the building. Like, so you heard that hit. As you're blocking, you heard, even if you're involved in the block, as soon as you hear that, you turn around and you see that dude standing over your quarterback, you're going at it, man. Like, Katie barred the door, bro. It's on. Like, we're gonna go do this, fines, whatever. This is all gonna happen because that's what you do. You play for the guy beside you. You play for the guy behind you. This is 53 individuals. There's no team in this thing. Everybody's going to look around and see. I mean, at some point, this should have been the rally cry for the team. We won't let this kind of stuff happen. So I ain't absolving them. I have issue with that. I haven't agreed with Mike McCarthy on anything this season. I do agree with that. I would have stood there dumbfounded. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. You don't get a pass for this from an offensive lineman.
Rex said this yesterday. Go ahead, Marcus, real quick.
To Jeff's point, if you run the video back, you could see the offensive lineman didn't know what to do. Head spinning.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do. They looking like they going to provide medical attention as opposed to go and get with Bostic. Like, I'm telling you that these guys did not relate to what me and Jeff Saturday relates to as football players. Look at the clip. After this hit, look at the offensive linemen and how all of them go up. Well, we didn't show it. They go up to check on Andy Dalton. It never crossed their mind, in which most football players it does, we about to go fight. It never did.
Yeah, Rex said yesterday he would have been coming off the sideline as the coach to get into a fight there. Speaking of the Cowboys here, Dan, I mean, we are in the week of the trade deadline.
Yes.
If this thing continues to go south, I mean, what options do you think Jerry Jones has, both short-term and long?
Yeah, at the trade deadline, not much. This isn't like a couple of years ago when they made the trade for Amari Cooper, and that turned out to be the one piece that unlocked their offense and carried them to a division title. They need a lot more than that. So they could look at selling off some pieces. I think Everson Griffin, the pass rusher. I think they're getting calls on Michael Gallup, the receiver. I'm not sure they're going to want to do that. But in terms of the short term, the guys they have are going to have to get better, and they're going to have to get Zach Martin and those guys back.
All right, so we will figure that out. Again, they're still in the thick of it, unbelievably, in that bad division. Speaking of the Cowboys, though, your article on overreactions from the weekend is always one of our favorite pieces here, and the first one is Dallas-related. Cowboys coach Mark McCarthy will be one and done. Overreaction or not?
It's not an overreaction because it could continue to get worse there. If they lose all the rest of their games and they finish 2-14, or if they lose, 10 of look, they could end up at the end of the season doing something that right now they insist they don't want to do. I believe Stephen Jones, he supports Mike McCarthy and the decision to hire him, but long way to go.
Next one, overreaction or not? Bucks don't need Antonio Brown. Which way do you go?
Not an overreaction. Of course they don't need Antonio Brown. This is a complete luxury and possibly even a mistake, but we can get to that another time. Tom Brady threw passes to 9 different receivers on Sunday. None of them were Antonio Brown. He's not on the team yet. He threw touchdowns to 4 different receivers on Sunday. They're fine without him. They're adding him because Tom Brady really liked working with him last year. And sure, it could elevate their offense, but it's already pretty far elevated.
Maybe the situation where it's a luxury is the best for him. We'll see. Anyway, one more. Patriots need to bench Cam. Overreaction or not?
I think it's an overreaction. I still think he's their best bet for winning games in the short term, no matter how bad it looks. These clips are not helping my case. But he at the beginning of the year, that run game looked very good. He's a critical part of the run game. If that's who they want to be and that's what they want to get back to, he's still their best bet for right now.
You were at that game on Sunday. It was not pretty to watch, obviously, and Cam knew it. Here he was on WEEI radio being his own worst critic.
For any type of competitor, do you feel embarrassed? Yeah. I don't feel offended, by what was done. I don't feel offended by having this type of conversation. Like I said, I'm a realist. And the first thing I said to myself coming home, I said, you keep playing games like that, bro, and it's going to be a permanent change.
All right, so that's the situation there. We're all trying to figure out what has gone wrong with Cam in the last few weeks. Greg McElroy, show us.
Well, I wish it was one thing because it'd be a lot easier to explain, but it's a multitude of problems. Let's start with this first clip that I pulled, and this is a lack of understanding in matchups and defense, frankly. He's got Julian Edelman crossing middle of the field. The free safety on the weak side comes down. He cuts it off. He sees it. You got to see this. Immediately, you go to your outlet. You got James White in the flat. You throw it accurately and on time. It's an easy first down. Instead, he throws it way behind him. He throws it late. White has to adjust to the ball. 3rd and 4 becomes a punting situation. This is another one. Defense gets depth. The linebackers get depth. They're running out underneath it. Cam's sitting there hitching 3 times, taking forever. Throw it to your back. Tom Brady did this forever. Just dump it. Don't make a bad play worse by trying to escape the pocket and create when there's nothing there to be created. And this one I just don't understand. This is almost like the yips. It comes out of his hand a little strange. He misses a hitch route, a locked hitch route by 9 yards. If you look at the elbow, his hand, his palm is against the football. He does not grip it with his fingers. So he's a bad grip on the football. His elbow's low, which has always been a little low for Cam. He's had a little bit of an unorthodox release, but the ball comes out really, really poorly with the nose down. And that's just a confidence thing. He's not gripping the ball well. He's not seeing the field well. He's not making good decisions. And he doesn't have a real good feel in the pocket right now. So it's a lot of problems, but I still agree with Gross. I still think he's the best option given that Stidham's shown us absolutely nothing, and Hoyer clearly struggled in his only start this year.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make any better what we are seeing, to your point. Marcus, what are you seeing?
I think he's regressing, and to me it looks physical. I know Greg talking about his mechanics and technique, and I agree. And then he ripped some balls, but even on those, he looks like he's struggling to just do a lot of things. It looks slow and lethargic. It doesn't look like it has the same type of pop. Now, what it could be is football shape. And obviously Cam came off of the COVID list. But when you look, look at the games. And that's the thing that I tell people. Look at Cam in comparison to what we saw. The runs, we was talking about, he can't sustain that for the rest of the season. And nobody thought he could. But to me, guys, it looks lethargic. It looks slow. He looks unsure of himself. And it's a direct opposite of what we thought him and Josh McDaniels would be able to do based on the first week sample size and even the Seattle game when he was throwing the ball successfully down the field.
That's exactly right. I mean, Ryan Clark said yesterday he looks like he's aged 5 years in the last 5 weeks. Do you know anything about them giving serious consideration to making a change?
No, Bill Belichick said after the game that absolutely Cam would remain the starter. There's no plan for that at this point. What we're going to find out in the next week about the Patriots is how they view themselves. If they're sellers at the trade deadline, then maybe in the second half of the season they do take a look at Stidham because they have to assess what they have there before figuring it out in the offseason.
They play Buffalo this week. If they lose that game, they're 3.5 games out in the division, and the trade deadline will be 2 days later. Much more to talk about as we continue. If you thought the Chiefs' road to repeat would be easier, think again. Why KC might be watching instead of playing in the Super Bowl this year, and then it has become one of our favorite things. Jeff Saturday handing out pancakes. Lots of them coming up as we get up with you on ESPN.